I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here we are. It's one of those bizarre moments in life that you just can't make up, and honestly, I still can't wrap my head around it. It all started when I visited my cousin's farm last summer. We've always had a good relationship, laughing at each other's bad jokes and pulling harmless pranks, but this time things went a little too far. Way too far. My cousin, Sam, has always been a bit of a wild card. You know the type, full of energy, always looking for the next crazy idea to try. Sam's family owns this massive farm with all sorts of animals, but the star of the show, a donkey named Daisy. Daisy was more than just a farm animal, she was practically the family mascot. Everywhere you looked, there were pictures of her with party hats on, eating treats, and even photobombing Christmas cards. She was quirky, lovable, and, let's just say, surprisingly photogenic. The day it all happened started off innocent enough. Sam suggested we film a funny video for their YouTube channel. Now, Sam's channel isn't exactly famous, but it's full of silly farm skits that usually get a few laughs. I figured it'd be something harmless, like pretending to interview the chickens or staging a fake argument between the goats. But Sam had other plans. "We're doing something with Daisy today," Sam said with a grin that I should have known meant trouble. "Trust me, it's going to go viral." That should have been my first red flag, but I shrugged it off. After all, how much trouble could you really get into with a donkey? Famous last words, right? Sam handed me a ridiculous outfit, a cowboy hat, a shiny vest, and boots that didn't even fit properly, and told me I had to wear it. "We're going full-on Western vibes," they said. It was embarrassing, but I went along with it because, well, that's what you do when your cousin is standing there with a camera and a ridiculous amount of enthusiasm. But then came the twist I wasn't expecting. The scene Sam had in mind wasn't just some light-hearted skit. It involved Daisy, a makeshift obstacle course, and a bag of carrots I was somehow supposed to use as motivation. I started to feel uneasy. "This is kind of weird, don't you think?" I asked, trying to laugh it off, but Sam just waved me off. "Relax, it's going to be hilarious. You'll thank me when we hit 1 million views." But the more Sam explained, the more I realized this was way beyond my comfort zone. I tried to back out, but Sam wasn't having it. "Come on, it's just for fun. Don't be a buzzkill." And before I knew it, the camera was rolling, and I was stuck in the middle of this increasingly ridiculous situation. What happened next? Well, let's just say things spiraled in a way I never could have imagined. As the camera rolled, I found myself in this ridiculous cowboy outfit, holding a bag of carrots while Sam stood behind the phone, grinning like they'd just come up with the world's greatest idea. Daisy, the star of the show, stood a few feet away, her big brown eyes looking at me like she wasn't sure if she should be amused or annoyed. "All right," Sam said, "just wave the carrots and lead her through the course." Easy, right? I looked at the so-called course they'd set up. It was a mix of hay bales, overturned buckets, and some kind of ramp that looked like it might collapse at any second. Daisy was supposed to follow me through it, but there was just one problem. Daisy didn't seem interested in moving at all. "Come on, girl," I said, waving a carrot in the air like an idiot. She stayed put, flicking her tail and chewing on something, clearly unimpressed. Sam burst out laughing from behind the camera. "You've got to sell it, be more dramatic," they yelled. So there I was, doing my best to sell it. I started talking to Daisy like she was a dog, saying things like, "Who's a good girl? You want the carrot? Let's go." I even tried making exaggerated gestures to get her attention. Nothing. She just stood there, staring at me like she was enjoying watching me embarrass myself. Meanwhile, Sam was having the time of their life, yelling out instructions and laughing so hard they could barely keep the camera steady. But then Sam decided to up the stakes. "Okay, Plan B," they shouted, running over to Daisy with a second bag of treats. "We'll lure her through together." Before I could protest, Sam handed me the bag and told me to stand at the end of the course while they tried to guide Daisy from the start. The idea was simple enough, but as soon as Sam gave Daisy a little nudge, she took off, straight toward me. I wasn't ready for how fast Daisy could move. 1 second she was standing still, and the next she was charging toward me like a runaway train. "Stop her!" Sam yelled, as if I had any idea how to stop a determined donkey. I held up the bag of carrots like a shield, but Daisy didn't slow down. My heart was racing, and all I could think was, this is not what I signed up for. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more chaotic, Sam tripped over one of the hay bales and fell face first into the dirt. Daisy, meanwhile, came to a screeching halt right in front of me, sniffing the carrots like nothing had happened. I stood there, frozen, with Sam laughing hysterically from the ground. But something about the way Daisy looked at me, almost like she knew this was all part of the plan, gave me a weird feeling. That's when I realized there was more to this setup than Sam had let on. As I stood there clutching the bag of carrots, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Daisy, now calm and content, nibbled on the edge of the bag like nothing had just happened. Meanwhile, Sam picked themselves up, brushing hay off their jeans and still laughing like this was the best thing ever. "See, I told you it'd be funny," they said, wiping tears from their eyes. But I wasn't laughing. My heart was still pounding, and the look Daisy gave me, like she was in on some inside joke, lingered in my mind. Then Sam said something that stopped me in my tracks. "All right, now for part 2. "Part 2? What part 2? "Wait," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "What exactly are we doing here, Sam? This wasn't the plan." Sam gave me that mischievous grin again, the one that always meant trouble. "Trust me, it's going to be even better than the first part. Just go with it." But I wasn't so sure anymore. I didn't like feeling like I was the only one who didn't know what was really going on. That's when Sam pulled out an old, beat-up cowboy lasso from behind one of the hay bales. "You're going to lasso Daisy," they announced, like it was the most obvious next step. I blinked at them, stunned. "You're kidding, right?" But Sam was already explaining how it would look hilarious on camera, especially if I missed a few times, and Daisy outsmarted me. I didn't know what was worse, the ridiculous idea or the fact that Sam seemed way too invested in this. As I reluctantly took the lasso, my stomach knotted with unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about a funny video anymore. Something about Sam's determination and Daisy's strange calm made me wonder what I'd really gotten myself into. My hands trembled as I held the lasso, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in my gut. The weight of the rope felt heavier than it should have, and I couldn't stop thinking about how ridiculous this was. "This isn't a good idea, Sam," I said, more to myself than to them, but Sam just waved me off, still filming, still grinning. "You've got this. It'll be hilarious when you finally get her." But the more I looked at Daisy, standing there calm and watching me with those wide eyes, the more I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was like she knew what was coming. Sam instructed me to stand at one end of the course and wait for Daisy to move toward me. I could barely focus, my mind racing with thoughts of what could go wrong. My hands were slick with sweat as I tried to loop the lasso, and every second that passed felt like it was stretching into eternity. Sam, oblivious to my growing discomfort, was setting up the camera for the perfect angle, completely convinced this was going to be the next viral sensation. I glanced at Daisy. She was still eating the carrots, her eyes following my every move, but there was something about the way she stood that made me uneasy. It was almost as if she was waiting for something, or worse, preparing for something. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to focus on the task. Sam's voice broke through my thoughts. "Ready?" I nodded reluctantly, stepping into position. The moment Daisy started moving toward me, I felt the rush of adrenaline flood my system. I raised the lasso, trying to time it just right. But as she came closer, I realized the don't miss moment I'd been waiting for didn't feel like a funny video anymore. It felt like I was about to step into something way deeper than I was prepared for. And that's when Daisy made her move. The moment Daisy started moving toward me, it felt like everything slowed down. I raised the lasso, trying to time it perfectly, but my mind was racing. Was I doing this wrong? Should I just let it go and walk away? But before I could make any decision, something strange happened. Daisy suddenly veered off course. She wasn't following the path I had imagined. Instead, she headed straight for Sam. I froze, watching in confusion as Daisy charged toward them, her hooves pounding against the ground with a speed I hadn't expected. Sam looked up from the camera just in time to see Daisy's sudden shift in direction. "What the?" They started to shout, but it was already too late. Daisy came at them like a freight train. I couldn't even react fast enough to warn Sam. They stumbled back, tripping over the same hay bale they had fallen on earlier, and before they could regain their balance, Daisy was on top of them. But Daisy didn't just nudge them out of the way like I thought she would. Instead, she seemed to push Sam down, trapping them under her hooves. I rushed forward, my heart pounding in my chest, but I didn't know what to do. Sam was laughing at first, probably thinking this was part of the joke, but as Daisy pressed her weight down, Sam's laughter quickly turned into frantic shouts for help. "Get her off me, get her off!" Sam screamed, their voice panicked. I could hardly process the scene unfolding in front of me. Daisy wasn't attacking, but she was pressing down hard, her weight too much for Sam to escape. And that's when I noticed it. Daisy's eyes weren't calm anymore. They were intense, almost like she was fixated on Sam, watching their every move. It hit me then. This wasn't just some weird coincidence. Something about Daisy's behavior had changed. I had been so focused on being the center of the ridiculous video that I missed the signs. Daisy wasn't acting randomly. This felt intentional. I wasn't the one who was supposed to be lassoed or caught on camera. Sam was the target. But why? I felt a surge of panic, wondering if we were in over our heads. What had Sam gotten us into? What was really going on with Daisy? Just as I started to reach out to help Sam, Daisy took another step forward, pushing them even further into the dirt. And that's when the camera caught it, the moment where everything changed. I lunged forward, panic rising in my chest as Daisy's weight continued to push Sam into the dirt. My heart hammered in my ears. I couldn't let this go on. "Daisy, stop!" I shouted, trying to break the tension, but she didn't budge. Sam was struggling now, kicking at the ground, their voice trembling as they pleaded, "Please get her off me." It was like the world had narrowed to this one chaotic moment. I reached down, grabbing at Daisy's bridle to try and pull her away from Sam, but her hooves were digging into the ground, unwilling to give an inch. I yanked harder, adrenaline pumping through my veins, but the donkey wasn't responding. It felt like I was fighting a force much bigger than just an animal. It was almost as if Daisy had an agenda, and I was too late to stop it. Just when I thought I couldn't take the tension anymore, the strangest thing happened. Daisy suddenly stopped, frozen mid-step, as if she had been commanded to halt. Sam, now covered in dirt, lay still, gasping for breath but looking incredibly confused. I blinked, unsure of what had just occurred. Daisy stood there, staring at Sam, and for a brief moment, the world seemed still. Then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of a car pulling up on the gravel driveway. My head snapped to the side, and my stomach dropped when I saw who was getting out. It was Sam's parents. I hadn't even realized they were home. Before I could react, Sam scrambled to their feet, brushing themselves off, but their face was pale, and there was something strange in their eyes. Sam's parents were walking toward us now, looking confused at the scene unfolding in front of them. "Sam, what on earth is going on?" their dad asked, his voice stern. But Sam didn't respond right away. They just stared at Daisy, their lips pressed tight. "Nothing," Sam said, a little too quickly. Just having fun with the donkey." But something about their tone didn't sit right. As their parents reached us, Sam suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, out of earshot. "Listen," Sam whispered urgently. "You have to stop telling people about Daisy." I frowned, completely confused. "What do you mean?" Sam looked around, making sure no one was listening. Daisy's not just some farm animal, she's been trained to do things we didn't expect. This, this wasn't the first time something like this happened. I felt a cold chill run through me. What are you talking about? Sam's eyes darted nervously toward their parents, who were still questioning the situation. Then, in a low voice, Sam added, I never meant for it to get this out of hand. Daisy was supposed to help with a prank, one that would go viral, but she has a mind of her own, and sometimes it's like she knows more than we do. Before I could respond, I heard a voice from behind me. It was Daisy's owner, Sam's mum, who had just come closer, holding up something in her hand. Sam, she said with a knowing look, it's time you told them the truth. My stomach twisted as I turned to face her, realizing that what I'd witnessed was only the tip of a much darker story. I turned to face Sam's mum, still holding that strange, knowing expression. I felt a chill run through me as she finally spoke. Daisy's not just a donkey, you see. She's been part of something much bigger than any of us realized. I stood there, speechless, as her words sank in. Sam's mum explained that Daisy had been part of a training program started years ago, one that was designed to teach animals complex behaviors. It wasn't just about tricks or obedience. There were whispers of something more, something experimental. Daisy had been trained to read human emotions, to predict actions, and, oddly enough, to perform in front of a camera. Sam had gotten involved in this training, hoping to create viral videos with Daisy. But something had gone terribly wrong. We thought we could control her, Sam's mum said, her voice shaking. But Daisy's instincts took over. She started acting on her own, and now she's more unpredictable than anyone thought. My mind was racing, trying to process everything I'd just heard. This was no longer a funny farm video. Daisy wasn't just part of a prank. She was part of something darker, and I had unknowingly stepped right into the middle of it. I looked over at Sam, who seemed just as bewildered, their face pale with guilt. I didn't know it would go this far, they said, their voice barely above a whisper. We were just trying to make a funny video, but I guess Daisy had other plans. The tension in the air was palpable, but at that moment, everything started to make sense. The way Daisy had acted around me, the way she seemed to target Sam. None of it had been random. Daisy had been reacting to the energy in the environment, and I was just a part of it. The plan had been to get the video to go viral, but Daisy's actions were far more complicated. She wasn't just performing, she was acting out a deeper, almost instinctive response to what was happening around her. As Sam's parents led us back to the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd barely scratched the surface of what was really going on with Daisy. What had begun as a simple video idea had turned into something far more unsettling. But in a strange way, it had opened my eyes to the unpredictable nature of the world, and to how easily things can spiral out of control when we least expect it. In the days that followed, Sam promised to dial back on the videos. Daisy was taken off the training program and placed under a more careful watch. As for me, I learned an important lesson that day. Never underestimate the unexpected. What seemed like harmless fun had turned into an eye-opening, bizarre adventure I'd never forget. And while I wasn't sure what the future held for Daisy or Sam, I knew one thing for sure. The world of viral videos and the unpredictable animals at the heart of them wasn't always as innocent as it seemed.